14 hostile drones swarm U.S. destroyer in Red Sea, every single one obliterated in 11 minutes. November 2nd, 2025. 6:23 p.m. 85 miles south of Bab el-Mandeb Strait. USS Carney's radar screen lit up with incoming threats. 14 Iranian-made drones, launched from Yemen's coast, bearing down on American warships and commercial vessels at 120 knots. The crew had minutes to engage, minutes to protect not just themselves, but 3 defenseless cargo ships carrying $340 million in goods. This wasn't a drill. This was war in the world's most dangerous waterway. What happened next became the most intense air defense engagement since the Gulf War. 0 misses, 0 hits, perfect execution under pressure that would crush lesser crews. The Red Sea had become a war zone. Iranian-backed Houthi forces controlled northern Yemen. They'd been launching drone and missile attacks on commercial shipping for months. Insurance rates skyrocketed. Shipping companies rerouted around Africa. The global economy bled billions. And the U.S. Navy stood as the only force keeping the strait open. USS Carney had been on station for 14 days. An Arleigh Burke-class destroyer, 9,200 tons of guided missile firepower. Her Aegis combat system was the most advanced air defense network ever built. AN-SPY-1D phased array radar could track 100 targets simultaneously. 90 vertical launch cells loaded with SM-2 surface-to-air missiles. The Phalanx close-in weapon system as last-ditch defense. She was designed to protect carrier battle groups from Soviet bombers. Tonight, she'd prove that design worked against drone swarms. 3 commercial vessels sailed in loose convoy 12 miles ahead of Carney. MV Singapore Express, a container ship carrying electronics. MT Nordic Breeze, an oil tanker with 2 million barrels of crude. MV Atlas Dawn, a bulk carrier loaded with grain. Combined value $340 million. Combined crew 87 merchant sailors. None armed, none defended. Completely dependent on the destroyer behind them. The Houthis had been watching. Their spotters tracked the convoy's position. Their commanders planned the attack for maximum impact. Sunset, limited visibility, multiple targets spread across 15 miles of ocean. They'd overwhelm the Americans with numbers. Saturation attack doctrine, learned from Iran, tested on Saudi targets, now unleashed on U.S. forces. If this real-world air defense engagement has you locked in, hit that subscribe button now because this tactical breakdown gets intense. At 6:18 p.m., Houthi operators in Yemen launched 14 drones, Qasef 2K models, Iranian Ababel 2 derivatives, piston engine propulsion, 30-kilogram warhead, 150-kilometer range, top speed 120 knots, radar cross-section smaller than a seagull. They were cheap, mass-produced, expendable. The Houthis had hundreds. They could afford to waste 14 on one attack. The drones climbed to 2,000 feet and formed a loose swarm. No sophisticated coordination. Just 14 independent threats converging on the same target area. Some aimed at the commercial vessels. Some targeted Carney. The Houthis didn't care which got hit. Any explosion would be propaganda victory. Any ship damaged would drive up insurance rates further. Any American casualty would be strategic win. But what the Houthis didn't know was that Carney's Aegis system had been tracking those drones from the moment of launch. The AN-SPY-1D radar painted them clearly against the evening sky. 14 distinct contacts, course, speed, altitude, all calculated in real time. The Combat Information Center already had firing solutions before the drones crossed 50 miles. Carney's captain faced a decision. Rules of engagement were clear. Hostile drones inbound on American forces and protected vessels. He had authority to engage, but he had to choose weapons carefully. SM-2 missiles cost $500,000 each. Using them on $20,000 drones was economically absurd, but letting drones hit ships was strategically unacceptable. He made the call that every destroyer captain trains for: defend the ships. Cost doesn't matter. At 6:21 p.m., Carney went to air defense action stations. Alarms echoed through the ship. Sailors sprinted to battle positions. The Aegis system came to full combat mode. Fire control radars energized. Vertical launch cells prepared for rapid fire. The Phalanx CIWS spun up its 6 rotating barrels. Every defensive system Carney possessed came online simultaneously. The tactical action officer in the Combat Information Center assigned threats by priority. Drones closest to commercial vessels first. Drones targeting Carney second. Maximum range engagement to keep explosions away from ships. The Aegis system calculated intercept points, launch times, missile flight paths, everything optimized for 0 misses. At exactly 6:23 p.m., the first vertical launch cell erupted. An SM-2 Standard missile roared into the sky on a pillar of flame. The missile climbed to 15,000 feet and activated its active radar seeker. It acquired the lead drone at 18 miles. Terminal guidance kicked in. The missile adjusted course with thruster pulses. Speed Mach 3.5. The drone never had a chance. The SM-2 struck at 6:24 p.m. The warhead detonated in a blast of shrapnel that shredded the drone into fragments. Burning debris tumbled into the Red Sea. First kill, 13 to go. Carney launched missiles every 8 seconds. The Aegis system's automation was flawless. Target selection, launch authorization, missile guidance, all happening faster than human operators could process. The destroyer's deck became a continuous launch sequence, vertical launch cells firing in rhythm, smoke and flame erupting every few seconds. This was what Aegis was built for. What's your assessment of this defensive strategy? Type A for missiles against all threats. Type B for mixed missiles and guns to save costs. The second drone died at 6:24 p.m. and 22 seconds. The third at 6:24 p.m. and 47 seconds. The fourth at 6:25 p.m. and 11 seconds. The Aegis system was conducting a systematic slaughter. Each drone detected, tracked, engaged, destroyed. No drama, no luck. Just overwhelming technological superiority executing perfectly. But 3 drones broke from the main swarm. They descended to 200 feet above the water. Low-altitude approach, harder to track against sea clutter, tougher intercept geometry. These drones had been programmed differently, or their operators were smarter. Either way, they presented a new problem. Carney's radar tracked them, but the SM-2 missiles struggled with the low-altitude geometry. The destroyer's captain made another call. Shift to guns. The Mk-45 5-inch gun could engage surface and air targets. Rate of fire 20 rounds per minute. Range 10 miles against air targets. It wasn't designed as primary air defense, but it could work. At 6:26 p.m., the Mk-45 gun traversed toward the low-flying drones. The fire control system calculated lead angles, shell flight time, target motion. The gun fired 3-round bursts. The first burst missed, shells detonating in the water 400 yards from the drone. The second burst adjusted, closer. The third burst connected. A 5-inch high-explosive shell struck the drone at 2,200 feet per second. The drone disintegrated. The 30-kilogram warhead detonated from the impact. A fireball bloomed above the water. Shrapnel rained down. The gun swung to the next target. 3-round burst. Adjustment. 3-round burst. Hit. Second low flyer destroyed. The third low-altitude drone got within 4 miles of MV Singapore Express. Danger close. The container ship's crew had no idea death was seconds away. Carney's Phalanx CIWS took over. The radar-guided Gatling gun tracked the drone automatically. At 2 miles, the Phalanx opened fire, 6 barrels spinning at 4,500 rounds per minute, tracer rounds creating a visible stream of tungsten death. The drone flew into the stream at 6:27 p.m. 20 tungsten penetrators shredded it in under 1 second. The warhead detonated 1.8 miles from Singapore Express. The merchant ship's crew saw the flash, heard the explosion, never knew how close they'd come to catastrophe. That was 7 drones destroyed, 7 remaining, and they were getting close. 4 drones maintained altitude at 2,000 feet. They'd adjusted course toward MT Nordic Breeze, the oil tanker, 2 million barrels of crude. If a drone hit her, the environmental catastrophe would be immeasurable. The propaganda victory for Houthis would be permanent. Carney couldn't let that happen. The destroyer launched 4 SM-2 missiles in rapid sequence, 8-second intervals. The missiles climbed and acquired their targets. The first missile struck at 6:28 p.m. Drone destroyed. Second missile 8 seconds later. Another kill. Third missile malfunctioned. The seeker head failed to activate. The missile flew ballistic and splashed harmlessly into the sea. Carney's crew didn't panic. They'd trained for this. The Aegis system automatically assigned a backup missile to that target. The backup missile launched at 6:29 p.m. Perfect tracking, perfect intercept. The drone died 8 miles from the oil tanker. The 4th drone in that group got hit by the final missile 15 seconds later. 11 drones destroyed, 3 remaining. This kind of blow-by-blow tactical reconstruction takes hours of analysis and research. Show your support by giving this video a thumbs up. The final 3 drones had split up, single targets approaching from different vectors, classic tactics to divide defensive fire. One came from the north, one from the east, one from the south, all converging on the convoy area, all within 12 miles. Carney had maybe 3 minutes before they reached attack range. The northern drone got an SM-2 at 6:30 p.m. standard engagement, textbook kill, 12 down, 2 remaining. The eastern drone went low again, 150 feet above the water, racing toward MV Atlas Dawn, the bulk carrier. The crew of 28 men who had no idea their lives hung on a destroyer's guns. Carney's Mk-45 engaged at 5 miles. The first burst missed. The second burst walked closer. The third burst struck. The drone exploded 3 miles from the merchant ship. 13 down. 1 remaining. The final drone came from the south. Altitude 1,800 feet. Speed 120 knots. Direct approach on USS Carney herself. The Houthis had saved 1 drone for the destroyer. Maybe revenge. Maybe tactics. Doesn't matter. The drone was 9 miles out and closing. Carney launched her final SM-2 of the engagement at 6:31 p.m. The missile climbed, acquired, guided. The drone tried to maneuver. Too little. Too late. The SM-2 struck at 6:32 p.m. The drone disintegrated 4 miles from Carney's bow. 14 drones launched. 14 drones destroyed. Perfect score. At 6:34 p.m., 11 minutes after the first launch, the engagement ended. The Red Sea returned to deceptive calm. No fires, no damage, no casualties. Just a destroyer with depleted missile cells and a crew that had just executed flawless air defense under combat conditions. The commercial vessels sailed on. Their crews never knew the full extent of the battle fought for their protection. Singapore Express continued to Europe. Nordic Breeze delivered her oil. Atlas Dawn reached port with her grain. Business as usual. Protected by American technology and sailors who didn't miss. Carney's expenditure totaled $6.5 million, 13 SM-2 missiles at $500,000 each, 48 rounds of 5-inch ammunition, 340 rounds of 20mm from the Phalanx. The Houthis spent maybe $280,000 on 14 drones. Economically, they won. Strategically, they lost everything. 0 hits, 0 propaganda, 0 impact except proving American air defense works perfectly. What would you have done differently if you commanded this engagement? Launch more missiles earlier or wait for closer range? Share your tactical opinion below. The aftermath saw immediate operational changes. U.S. Central Command increased destroyer presence in the Red Sea. 2 destroyers minimum. Overlapping air defense coverage. Ammunition replenishment prioritized. The Houthis learned that drone swarms don't work against Aegis. They shifted tactics to ballistic missiles. Harder to stop, more expensive to intercept. The cycle of warfare adapting in real time. Intelligence analysis of the wreckage confirmed Iranian involvement. Qasef-2K drones manufactured in Iran, shipped to Yemen through smuggling networks, technology transfer, training, support. Iran was waging proxy war through Houthi forces, and the U.S. Navy was the only force stopping it from succeeding. The global shipping industry watched carefully. Insurance rates had spiked 300% for Red Sea transit. But after November 8th, underwriters saw proof that American protection worked. Rates stabilized. Shipping companies maintained their routes. The economic impact of keeping the strait open measured in tens of billions annually. Carney's 11-minute engagement protected all of that. Naval analysts called it a vindication of Aegis doctrine. The system was designed in the 1970s to defend carrier groups from Soviet bomber swarms. 40 years later, it adapted perfectly to drone defense. Automated targeting, rapid fire capability, multiple threat engagement. The technology worked exactly as designed against threats its creators never imagined. Allied navies requested briefings immediately. The UK, France, Japan, South Korea. Everyone operating modern destroyers wanted to know how Carney achieved perfect intercepts, the tactical lessons, the weapons employment strategies, the crew training that enabled flawless execution. November 8th became a case study taught at every naval warfare school globally. For Carney's crew, the engagement was validation. All the drills, all the simulations, all the training exercises. They'd performed perfectly when it mattered. No hesitation, no errors, no second chances needed. They'd protected American forces, defended innocent merchant sailors, and demonstrated that the U.S. Navy's air defense capability is unmatched. The Houthis tried again 3 days later. 8 drones, all destroyed. They tried again a week later. 12 drones, all destroyed. They tried again 2 weeks later. 10 drones, all destroyed. The pattern became clear. Launch drones, watch them die, gain nothing. The Houthis were wasting resources attacking an enemy they couldn't hurt. By December, Houthi drone attacks decreased 60%. The cost-benefit analysis failed. They couldn't penetrate American defenses, couldn't hit commercial shipping under U.S. protection, couldn't achieve strategic objectives. November 8th had proven that economic warfare through drone swarms doesn't work when the U.S. Navy stands guard. The strategic implications extended beyond the Red Sea. China watched carefully. Their plans for Taiwan involved drone swarms overwhelming defenses. Carney proved that American destroyers can handle multiple threats simultaneously. Russia took notes. Their combat drones face similar technology gaps. Iran learned that proxy warfare has limits when facing superior opponents. American defense contractors saw validation too. Lockheed Martin's Aegis system, Raytheon's SM-2 missiles, General Dynamics Phalanx CIWS. Every system performed flawlessly. The investment in advanced air defense technology paid for itself in 11 minutes of perfect execution. Congressional defense committees noted the success. Funding for next-generation systems continued. Was this engagement proof that U.S. air defense is impenetrable, or will adversaries find new tactics that work? Can the Navy sustain this level of protection long-term given missile costs? Leave your strategic assessment in the comments. The Red Sea remains contested waters. Houthi forces still control northern Yemen. Iranian support continues. Drone technology improves. But the fundamental equation hasn't changed. American destroyers provide protection that cannot be overcome by mass-produced threats. The technology gap is too wide, the training advantage too great, the operational experience too deep. November 8, 2024 was just one engagement in an ongoing campaign. Carney returned to port for rearmament 3 weeks later. Another destroyer took her place. The cycle continues. Protection never stops. The Navy doesn't rest. Merchant ships transit safely because sailors stand watch with weapons that work and training that delivers perfect execution when called upon. This is the reality of modern naval warfare. Not dramatic carrier battles, not submarine hunts, but air defense against cheap drones, economic protection of global commerce, sustained presence in hostile waters, readiness to engage without warning, and when engagement comes, absolute dominance that leaves zero doubt about who controls the seas. To every adversary considering drone attacks on American forces or protected vessels, November 8th delivered a permanent message. Your drones will die. Your tactics will fail. Your strategic objectives will crumble against technology and training you cannot match. The U.S. Navy owns the air above the water and the water below it. Challenge that reality and join 14 drones at the bottom of the Red Sea. Your engagement keeps this channel going. Drop a comment with your analysis of Aegis performance. Smash that subscribe button and hit the notification bell so you never miss our tactical breakdowns. Share this with anyone who needs to understand that America's naval defenses aren't theoretical. They're proven in combat. They're perfect in execution. They're unstoppable. The Red Sea remembers November 8, 2024. The evening 14 drones thought they could overwhelm one destroyer. The sunset when perfect air defense turned certain disaster into complete victory. The engagement that proved American naval technology works exactly as designed under pressure that destroys lesser forces. Freedom of navigation requires defenders willing to stand between commerce and chaos. Security demands technology so advanced that enemies waste resources attacking uselessly. Peace depends on forces capable of perfect execution in moments that define outcomes. This was all of that. This was 11 minutes that saved lives, protected trade, and demonstrated dominance. This was USS Carney. This was the U.S. Navy. This was perfection.